Welcome to the Value Pros Show, where Value Pros get value ready. Hi, my name is Scheer, the host of the Value Pros Show. In this episode, we are talking with Darrin Fleming, fellow co-founder at valuepros.io and a seasoned expert in applying value-based strategies and driving go-to-market success. Together, we'll explore the transformative concept of the total value experience. It's designed to elevate how businesses deliver value at every critical touch point, from initial interactions to post-sales engagement. This episode is packed with insights into creating value-centric strategies that enhance win rates, shorten deal cycles, and foster lasting customer relationships. Let's dive in. Well, Darrin, I'm so excited to talk about this new big idea that we have that for 2025, which we're going to be talking about so much, but it's called Total Value Experience. Shortened, it's TVE. So really excited to get into it with you on this.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited too, because I think that it's definitely got some game-changing concepts and ideas that I think we're going to go through here.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump in. And I got this technique from Corporate Visions, but it's called grabbers. And I've got 3 key data points that I just think are going to rock everybody's world here. And I believe these data points still hold true right now as we roll into 2025. 75, 87, and then 59. So according to Gartner, 75% of B2B buyers prefer to have a sales-free experience. I'm going to pause for effect right now. Pause. That is a big, big-ass number. Okay, so the second number, 87. 87% of B2B buyers expect to be interacting with a trusted advisor, and that comes from Salesforce.com, their State of the Union report that they put out each year. And then finally, Darrin, 59% of the influence, the impact on a buying decision, a bold buying decision, 59% of the impact comes from the go-to-market experience that buyer has with the organization and the marketers and sellers involved with that experience. Only 41% of the decision-making is impacted by the offering itself. And again, this is B2B, but 59% of the impact comes from that go-to-market experience. And this is a pretty credible source as well, coming from SBI. So, Darrin, these 3 key data points, just to summarize, 75% of buyers don't want to interact with sales. They prefer a sales-free experience. As according to Gartner's study, a credible source, that's horrifying. If the seller makes it through, 87% of buyers expect to be dealing with a trusted advisor, which they're normally not, just to be honest. And then 59% of the experience, that's 59% of the impact on that buying decision. And given that 75% stat, we know that many B2B organizations are completely dropping the ball in terms of that go-to-market buying experience. So over to you, Darrin. Any reflections?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm just thinking about this. I went back through just thinking about over the last year or two, my own experience, my own buying experience for especially software products, SaaS products and different types of things. And I don't remember the last time I talked to a sales rep. I literally don't remember. And when I did over the last few years, it wasn't necessarily a positive buying experience. It didn't help enhance the buying experience. It actually was more negative. I typically do an evaluation online myself, so I totally resemble exactly those numbers. And if I do talk to someone, it's because I want to understand how it's going to help my business. I don't want to demo the product. I don't want to, a feature function discussion. So it absolutely matches my own experience.
Yep. So Houston, we've got a problem. We literally really do. And this needs to get fixed. This is the reason we exist, Darrin, in this partnership for valuepros.io. We've got a big problem in the overall buying experience, the go-to-market experience in the B2B world, and we're sold out for trying to fix it. So that brings forward our big idea, what we're calling a total value experience. And so for people watching this on YouTube, they can see, we've got an arrow from left to right. The left start of the arrow is labeled as low. On the right side, it's labeled as high. And then labeling the overarching arrow is total value experience. And so this is something that you and I coined together with our other partner, David, thinking about just how do we elevate the overall experience. Now, total value experience, just to provide a definition, what that is the cumulative total value of all the critical touch points and interactions that your organization's having with that buyer, both up to the point of signing a contract and beyond, making sure that buyer receives value, the impact that has been promised. And so we see that as the total value experience. So it's not just the offering value, it's actually even the value of all those critical interactions. And the whole emphasis here is how do we increase the total value experience so we can improve our win rates and help those buyers buy at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit on a key point there, that it's more than just during the buying experience. It's also getting all the way to value delivery. Getting that, I was actually just having a conversation with a customer the other day, and they actually recognized that their selling process ends when they get a signed contract, and then they've had cases where 3 months later they go back and say, "Oh, we haven't talked to the customer since then." And, they've kind of dropped the ball on making sure that the customer actually starts to get value from what they sold them.
Yeah, I'm telling you, and even immediately after signing contracts, I've seen some new data from Gartner. I'll do another episode on that, but most buyers right now in 2025 have buyer's remorse, even sometimes days after signing the contract. Because they're still overwhelmed and lost and they don't see the value. So, there's another episode that we did with Chuck McCoulier. And I love that episode where we're talking about first impact, hanging in there with the buyer, setting up, follow-on meetings to make sure you're measuring for and delivering on that promise of first impact and the value associated with that. So some of our clients are building that functionality literally into their product, and so the customer can see it real time, but many aren't. So you need to orchestrate a meeting where you prove the efficacy of that solution and the associated value with that solution. So yeah, just big issues here. So just to move the story along here, we see 3 key barriers that get in the way of providing your buyers, your customers, with a high total value experience. These barriers keep the value experience very low. The first one's perspectives, the second one is tools, and then the third barrier is disciplines. So what I'd like to do next is just break down each one of these barriers and what's holding go-to-market teams and revenue teams back from providing this high total value experience to their customers. So as it relates to perspectives, Darrin, what I see and you see very often is just a product-centric perspective where the marketing team and the sellers, they show up answering the wrong question. And the question, we'd call it, why us? They're answering the question of why choose us, our product, over competitive alternatives. And let me tell you what's awesome about our product. It's got this feature, it's got this feature, it's got this feature. It does this type of function. And here's some of the benefit associated with this, but isn't it a great product? Don't you need it? That's the focus, both from the marketing side, you go to any website, you're going to see product-centric content. And then if you and then sellers, especially junior sellers, will show up with a product-centric point of view. Again, answering the wrong question. Why us versus why change? And what's the urgency of that change? So just the wrong orientation, product-centric orientation. Any thoughts, Darrin?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember years ago when we first started working together, we were working with a customer and we were reviewing some of their content and their website. And I remember you specifically saying, and this was probably 15 years ago, or maybe even more. You said, "It's all about you, baby." And it was their whole content was about their product, their offering, their service, nothing about the customer, nothing about what the customer is doing. And unfortunately, that's still true today for most organizations. So,
Absolutely.
focusing on the customer first is a critical element.
Yep, yep, and we'll move into that, but, just to agree, the predominance of this product-centric approach, it's not resonating with the buyers, it's not resonating with their context, it's not talking about the value that they're losing, their cost of inaction, it's not talking about the potential upside, the outcomes, it's literally focused on the stuff, which is a dangerous place to be. So that's the first barrier, perspectives. The second one's tools. And so, metaphorically, I think of a, trying to put a square peg into a round hole. And that's how I see most tools that are being afforded to the buyers in this world of trying to provide buyers a higher total value experience. Most of the tools that the sellers are using are almost even like a ball and chain. They're kind of holding them back, or they don't use them or don't want to use them, and they're very often very externally oriented, like a CRM system, for example, or a account development form, that they need to fill out. Just uh, activity level tools that don't translate into real value for the buyers, for the buying experience. Any thoughts, Darrin?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think that across most organizations, most of the tools provided to sales are more for internal management reporting and understanding of what's going on. CRM tools are for management. They're not really, in most cases, for the sales, and it's certainly not about the customer experience, which is kind of interesting because it's called customer relationship management, but they typically are more focused on internal metrics and internal things, forecasting tools, like you said, account development tools. It's all about how is it impacting our business, not how is it going to help our customer make a buying decision.
Absolutely. Yeah, and things are getting a little bit better. Gosh, one of my former clients, Gong.io, can really jazz up a CRM system and make it more relevant. But that's
Mhm.
that's the exception, not the norm that we see. Now, the final barrier is disciplines, and from our experience, we might see high performers within an organization, some of those sellers that do help their buyers see the value and quantify the value, but it's random at the end of the day. Random acts of value is what I might call it. And it does happen, but randomly and not often enough. And so those are the three key barriers. Any other thoughts, Darrin, before we move on?
No, I totally agree. I mean, you'll see spots, and even people who are good at it don't do it consistently. And
Yeah.
it's still it's easy to slip back into focusing on the product, focusing on the wrong things, and not have the right discipline to really always be customer centric, always be customer focused.
Yep, yep. So it's still random acts, etc. So these three barriers: perspectives, tools, and disciplines. What's the cost of these barriers? Here's what it's costing in terms of win rates. Right now, a vendor, if they're lucky, might be winning 2 out of 10 deals, and the unlucky ones are winning 1 out of 10, or sometimes even lower than that. Uh, Rarely would they win more than 2 out of the 10 deals that they're pursuing. So win rates are just in a trash can right now, and these barriers and these lack of discipline, lack of the right types of tools, and the product centricity really do hold everything back and end up with very low win rates. Secondly, deal cycles. When the customer can't see and articulate the value, let alone themselves. How do they go about selling, 10 plus people on the buying committee? And hence you've got these proactive deal cycles, sales cycles that, 60 to 70% of the time end in no deal at all, just complete inaction. And then finally, you'll know if you're providing a low total value experience because there's going to be more discounting pressure where the buyer's not going to go, I don't see the value and you guys are charging too much. I need some serious concessions here if we're going to move forward. So you're going to have way more price pressure, discounting pressure. And then for people watching this, I do have an unhappy smile face here. Emotionally, this is kind of a sucky situation. Everybody's losing. The buyer's unhappy. Sellers that are trying to serve the buyers are unhappy. Leadership's unhappy because things aren't moving forward in the right type of way. Everybody's kind of losing in this low total value experience paradigm, again presented by these barriers. Any thoughts, Darrin?
Yeah, no, I would just take the low deal cycles or long deal cycles one step further. And I think you talked about it a little bit, the indecision. It's, the dreaded no decision, where you still think you're chasing this deal, you still are pursuing it. It's not lost yet, but you never get it over the goal line. And the customer is frustrated at that point as well. The buyer's frustrated because they can't get it approved or they can't get the budget allocated or whatever. So it's not just long deal cycles, it's wasted time chasing deals that are never going to close if you can't get a business case.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Great point. And I've got another disheartening quote, but 92% of buyers of technology solutions need a business case. And one of our affiliates for Darrin and I, he's former head of procurement for Levi Strauss and also CDW. And he mentioned rare is the occurrence where a seller comes in and helps with the business case, which protracts that sales cycle and very often ends in inaction. No deal for nobody. So we call this whole situation that we're painting, we're calling it value disconnected, because there's typically great value there. It's just not connected into that total value experience you're trying to deliver to your customers. And, sometimes we refer to that as the value fog. Everybody's kind of lost. Nobody's seeing clearly. But in this instance, we're calling it value disconnected. So let's talk about a better way, Darrin. Let's turn the corner and talk about how things could be. So on the perspectives barrier, the better perspective to have is like a magnifying glass on value. One of our affiliates out of London loves to talk about value, and his definition of value is a mystery to be solved for. So if you think of Sherlock Holmes with a magnifying glass, you're out there looking for the value and you're working with your buyer and getting their point of view on where the value is going to be. And you're mutually shaping the value proposition together, solving for that mystery. So that's, on the perspective side. On the tool side,
Well, so I've got a point of, I've got a quick point, around that. It just reminds me of back about the time we met. Stephen Covey kind of put it best in habit number 5 out of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Habit number 5: seek first to understand and then to be understood. Which then, it's the same thing applies, and people still don't do it. Seek first to understand the customer and understand their perspective and how it could create value and where their problems are. That should be the first goal, not to have them understand what you're trying to achieve, what you want to sell to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's a lot of chatter on LinkedIn, et cetera. Just how everybody falls down on discovery. And it's just so critical to listen. You can also offer point of view. You can speak and lead the witness as long as the witness is led and believes in that. So you really, it's this co-creation type thing that you're trying to get into. And that's the second point. What helps in doing this is having the right tools. And visually, I'm painting a picture of 2 smiling faces, one of the revenue team, the other of the buyer, both looking at KPIs, Whose KPIs? The buyer's KPIs, obviously. Trying to see in their universe what are the metrics that you can manage for and influence to help them get promoted, to help them get the value that they're seeking. But having both the seller and the buyer on the same team with tools that help them figure that out. And again, most sellers don't have the tools, and some of the high performers try to whip things up on spreadsheets, et cetera. But we do believe there should be this more external orientation, buyer-centric orientation of what tools can we provide that are really going to support this total value experience. So that's the second barrier there, Darrin?
Yep, absolutely. And the more you can tie it to business impact, the outcomes that the customer is going to see, and the more you can tie it to what are their overall objectives, what are the priorities of the business, how is what you're going to how you can help them going to tie to what their executives are saying. These are our top 3 priorities. Making sure you understand, because the more you can tie it to their overall executive priorities, the better chance you're going to get of actually being able to get funded.
Absolutely.
And close the deal, win the deal.
Absolutely critical. Yeah. No, well put. And then on the third side, on the disciplines, what we see is a much better way is having a set of disciplines that you can follow to increase the consistency of creating a high total value experience for your customers as they're buying with you. And we offer a framework for that, thinking about 4 phases where you really need consistency to drive a higher total value experience. The first phase of the relationship with that customer is building trust. And there's a number of disciplines around doing that. The second phase is around understanding their needs, just like what Darrin was saying, seek first to understand before you're understood, really diving in with deep discovery, doing your homework first, of course, but for diving in with deep discovery with your buying champion and different stakeholders to figure out what are their needs and where's the potential value points. So that's the second phase. The third phase is delivering insights with your buyer. Where do we see the potential value? What's real? What might not be so real? But figuring it out together and presenting that, justifying that value, and quantifying for it. So that's the third phase. And then the fourth phase is, like Darrin said, many customer or sellers, they sign a contract and run. But sticking around, making sure that promise is being delivered. Driving execution is what we call that. So 4 key phases where you need to have consistent behaviors that are going to, result in this total value experience, a very high total value experience. Darrin, comments?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's all about, a lot of people talk about becoming a trusted advisor, everything else. It's all about helping the customer, create value for the customer. I mean, in the end, in a B2B setting, you're selling money. You're selling money to your customer. So you need to understand how you're going to help their business perform better. And it actually goes to what we named this business, Value Pros. You need to become a value professional. You need to become a value professional, helping the customer understand value, identifying areas of impact, and then taking it all the way through to actually delivering value for the customers. And that's what being a value professional is all about, a value pro.
Yep. Love it. Love it. Absolutely. So the benefits when you get this right, all those negative metrics that I talked about, the low win rate, of course, you're going to increase your win rate when you lead with this value and provide a greater total value experience. Your deal cycles, they'll be shortened. And you'll know if it's go, no go way faster when you're leading with value. Of course, if you lead with value and help shape that value proposition in a very clear way, a very credible way, very compelling way, then discounting, you might not go away, but it is the buyer won't have as much power over that when that's really well stated and everybody understands it. And then also everybody's having more fun. And when you're providing a greater total value experience, your buyers love you more. Your sellers want to stick around and have more fun because they're kind of killing it now and having a much better selling and buying experience. The marketing team, they're enjoying life, because they're creating better content and seeing better results as a result of that. If you're a leader, you're having more fun because not only do you have a happy revenue team, but you're hitting your financial targets. So there's a lot of upside towards improving the total value experience and what we've been talking about. Any thoughts, Darrin?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. I mean, it's all about, like I said, value pro and delivering value to customers, helping your customers' businesses perform better and make more money. And if that's where you focus, everyone's happier. Everyone wins.
Yeah, and I would just give this a label to this whole, desired state of creating a greater total value experience. I'm calling it value energized, Darrin. One of my key words for 2025 is energize, energy. And when you're leading with value and helping to shape value, quantify value, that's what I call value energized. Everybody's going to be more energized at the end of the day because they could see and understand that value. So critical.
Rather be value energized than value disconnected, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in terms of what are the key drivers then to making this happen, to be value in, how do we energize with value? What's needed? So the first thing we would say is value content. So if you want to shift the perspective from, off of the product and onto the value, how do you do that? It doesn't just happen on its own. Value content will lead the way. So you'll have a value narrative, and what Darrin and I are doing with you right now is a perfect example of this. We've got a narrative that we're sharing with you. Secondly, value studies, looking across a number of different customers and just looking for pattern. Where are they seeing the value and how can we swing back and write about that, communicate about that, and use that as a basis for quantifying value, those studies, getting our benchmarks from them, et cetera. And then value stories. So, client X, here's what their situation was before. After we arrived, here's the type of metrics that they've been able to really improve in their world. And then emotionally, here's what they have to say about it. So really anchoring case study by case study. So your revenue team has more to help them in communicating that value perspective. Thoughts, Darrin?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously we're focused very much here on the buying process, the customer buying experience and everything. But this starts all the way back with product management and developing the right product, understanding the market, understanding the needs of the customer, developing the right products, marketing, communicating it appropriately based on how it's going to deliver value in that value content, value narrative, all the way through the the buying process with the message through the narrative through the sales process.
Yep, absolutely. So that's on the value content side. So the next key lever in making this happen is putting together value tools for your revenue team. These tools can sit off of a website and marketing might own those, or these tools could be used directly with sellers and the buyers as part of that, person to person type of movement. But enabling your team with value tools so they can help to communicate and quantify the potential value. So the types of tools that, just for example, preparation tools. I know there's a lot of AI, this and that out there, but, are you providing the right tools for your sellers and marketers to truly understand their target buyers so they can do a better account-based marketing or actually, prospecting and outreach and having direct selling conversations, but showing up prepared, showing up relevant. So again, I swing back to that 75% stat in your own experience, Darrin, mine as well, we'd rather run from sales than engage. But if those sellers had the right tools, had the right perspectives, showed up value ready to deliver insight that we'd appreciate, it'd be perceived so much differently. So that's preparation types of tools. We have one that we offer called Value Brief. Secondly, assessments. What are we talking about here is what we're trying to answer in terms of why change. Is this a little change, big change? What's the delta? What's that look like? Assessment tools can just be brilliant in helping the buying organization get their head around the problem and the degree of change required, and also the outcome if they do change. So having a solid assessment is wonderful in that spirit. And we've got another episode on this where we did a deep dive on what constitutes, there's different types of assessments and what constitutes good versus bad, et cetera. I'd encourage everyone to watch that episode on assessments. And then thirdly, and this is, an of course type of thing, but you want to have value calculators. And there's different flavors of those: value calculators, ROI calculators, TCO calculators. And it's funny, very often we'll talk to clients and they'll say, oh, yeah, we've got a value calculator. And we'll ask, hey, could you show it to me? Give me a minute. Dang, okay, give me a few more minutes. And they can't find it. B, it's maybe some nasty spreadsheet that a financial analyst put together from the finance team who didn't really understand the customer's world, et cetera, but whipped something up. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, something that's concerted, really well made, and something that people want to use.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, as you said, value assessments. And even if you can get it all the way to a benchmark assessment to say, here's how you compare, here's the big rocks of things that we've seen across other customers, other parts of the market. How do you compare, and what's the value that you could create? And not jumping too quickly to, we see, as Bruce said, we see a lot of people say, oh, we've got an ROI tool. We've got a spreadsheet that we build the ROI business case that no one uses. It was too complex. Or it jumps too quickly into trying to get to the ROI business case, which it's early on, it's more about highlighting and demonstrating where's the value, what are the problems, how much is it worth to solve this problem before you try to get to the cost justified business case. That's the last step. That's at the end of the process, not too early. So that's, if you jump too quickly to that, it can slow down the process or turn off the customer.
Yeah, or especially if it comes across as being very vendor-centric and product-centric. We're trying to be customer-centric up front and talk about, hey, what are we talking about here? What's the potential value? And what's the potential cost of inaction? That if we don't move forward, what's the downside of this whole thing? What are the risks associated with this? Having kind of a bigger conversation up front. So that's the value tools. That's the second key lever that's really going to help everybody move to provide a greater total value experience. And then the third key lever is value enablement. And what we mean by that is, providing your team with a playbook on, hey, where's the go-to-market strategy leading us? What segments? What's our ideal client profile? What are the personas we're targeting? And then wrapping around some of the content that we talked about. What's our core central narrative that we're going to be talking to those buyers about? And where's the potential areas of value? Where's the potential areas of risk if they don't change? Having and then also within those playbooks, talking about how to use the tools that are being provided, just having everything wrapped up, just thinking about maybe a football team analogy. So everybody knows who's on first, second, who's doing what, when to be successful in selling the solution. So the playbooks is a key part of value enablement. Secondly, training. Many sellers, especially junior sellers, might not have the level of business acumen, might be uncomfortable. And so they need some support in having better value-based conversations, and training certainly is helpful in that. And then thirdly, coaching. coaching for managers. How can they do a better job of helping their first line reports, do a better job of value selling, if you would, and having those value conversations? And how can they be better managers in that process? So those are the three key levers that we see in driving a higher total value experience. Again, value content, value tools, and value enablement. Value content helping to shift the perspective from product to value. Value tools helping to, break away from some of the internal tools to using tools that are truly going to drive a better buying experience. And then value enablement, which is going to take care of that lack of disciplines and inconsistency of disciplines problem through value enablement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned Stephen Covey's 7 Habits earlier, but when I think of value enablement, I think of, the whole sharpen the saw, that you're constantly trying to be better. You're trying to become a value pro, trying to deliver value to customers every day, and be focused on that as your number one priority.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and then, a bit of a punchline here in our story. ValuePros.io, the reason we're existing is to help people have a greater total value experience, provide a greater total value experience. And we do bring together the value content, the value tools, and value enablement. We've got capabilities and experience across all these three key levers that our clients can leverage, based on where they need support. And Darrin, just a quick one. We've done this type of work. This isn't our first rodeo. You can see both Darrin and I, we've been around the block and worked with many organizations. But we've worked with some of the best of the best. We put together an overall program for Tableau before they had their IPO. Most all of our clients at Tableau are multimillionaires now. They kind of hit it big. SAP, we've worked with them. They acquired a company called SuccessFactors, and we did a bunch of work with them, both on getting their story straight with a value narrative, and then playbook that helps everybody understand, what's our go-to-market strategy and who are we focused on and what are the key personas, what's key messaging and talk tracks, et cetera. And then how do we have that value conversation, especially trying to enable more of the sellers to have more of the value conversation versus constantly trying to get the attention of the value engineering team. How could we enable the sellers to be more self-sufficient, at least up front, to get the ball rolling before the value engineering team gets involved? And then, Darrin, you want to talk a little bit about Verizon?
Yeah, no, we've been working with Verizon for years on enabling their sales teams to sell, enterprise level IT and telecommunications solutions, and change the way they sell it from, selling the technology, selling the features and functions. I mean, they're selling a platform, they're selling a set of enablement technologies, and really focusing on what is the customer trying to achieve? What are they trying to solve for? And how is the enterprise solution around telecommunication going to enable them to achieve those business outcomes that they might not be able to achieve otherwise? So very focused on the whole value experience, within their enterprise sales.
Well, Darrin, this has been a great discussion. Why don't we just come up with a few concluding remarks? I guess my big wish is for this whole notion of a total value experience. I'm hoping that this dialogue was helpful to you in thinking about how can you create and drive for a higher total value experience in 2025 with your clients. And, we offered several perspectives on that. Perspectives, we talked about tools, we talked about disciplines, and we talked about some of the key levers to try to improve that. So my biggest wish is you got something out of that and some ideas perhaps maybe where you can put some emphasis to try to create a higher total value experience. Darrin, any thoughts you have?
Yeah, no, and along the same lines, what I would say is wake up every morning. If you're customer facing, if you're on the revenue team for anyone, an individual contributor, marketing, sales, whatever it may be, wake up every morning thinking about how am I going to become a value professional and deliver more values to our customers, both through the buying process, through the interactions, and make sure that we're enabling our customers to be better every day and make more money. If you can do that, you're more likely to be successful than not.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then for also the sales leaders and revenue leaders, the CROs of the world watching this, and enlightened marketers, it's time to probably shift emphasis towards a value-centric strategy, especially if you have a high consideration solution and you're not 100% into the product-led growth strategy. Tableau, for example, was, but they decided to shift their strategy towards value, where we got the opportunity to work with them, thinking about how do we land more, bigger deals, more enterprise deals. How do we move upstairs into the executive offices to have those types of selling conversations? So if that's part of your strategy as well, we hopefully this is useful and we should talk. But Darrin, on that note, thanks, Darrin, for your contribution. This has been fun.
Yeah, same here, and hopefully everyone got value out of it.
Yeah, take care, everyone.
All right, thanks.
To wrap up, we dove deep into the total value experience, a game-changing approach to creating meaningful, measurable value throughout the buyer journey. For me, the most insightful takeaway was the emphasis on breaking down barriers, perspectives, tools, and disciplines that hold companies back from achieving success. It's a powerful reminder that leading with value isn't just a strategy, it's a commitment. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to the Value Pro Show. And if you're feeling kind, leave a review so others can find and enjoy it too. Take care.